Hello, wannabes and creators, and welcome back to another episode of The Business of Art, the podcast that attempts to demystify business for artists. This is another ranterlude, and one that I've been putting off talking about. There is a stigma in business that you talk about the good things that are happening. And I like to think that I buck that trend by talking about the good things for sure, but also talking about the struggles that we have. Even this is taboo to talk about. And I wanted to make sure I had some sort of success or some sort of barometer to measure to see if I was still feeling the way that I feel now. And I can say that I've been pretty depressed lately. This is a pretty hard episode for me to talk about, honestly, but things are going well. Let's start there. You know, we just had Long Beach Comic Expo. We sold a bunch of books. We got a lot of people on the mailing list. By all measure, we had a successful con. And we have a lot more coming up. You know, we have cons 6 of the next 8 weekends. I thought that with that success and the success of the Kickstarter, I would feel better. We do have cash flow. We do have revenue. We do make revenue. But as we talked about in the last ranterlude, a lot of that money or all of that money goes out towards marketing, branding, and getting more books. And I think this is the basis for the way that I'm feeling recently, because as well as we do, as much money as we have coming in, there are always more expenses. I'll give you an example. Last night, my friend found a con that is in Orange County, and it is 95,000 people they're expecting over 4 days, and it's $300. And that sounds great, right? I mean, $75 a day is an amazing amount of money to spend to get that kind of exposure and make those kind of fans. However, that comes with a lot of expenses. You know, just getting there, I have to print more books, have to print more merch. I have to get down there, pay for parking, all of this other stuff. People talk about depression when you are in a bad place. I'm not in a bad place. And it's getting worse the more success that we have. The reason is that with the more success that we have, the more expenses that we have. And that means more guaranteed money going out every month. And I don't like money going out. I like money coming in. Unfortunately, you only get that money coming in if money goes out. And it's something that's rampant in entrepreneurship. If you read about it, it's not an easy thing to deal with or to talk about, but it's something that many, if not all, entrepreneurs face. And I think I understand why. It is this idea that no matter how much money you make, you will have more expenses. The expenses will continue, whether it's server space, whether it is buying more books, whether it is going to more conventions, whatever it is, those expenses continue and exponentially almost continue when you get more and more popular. Getting the first few thousand fans is relatively easy. I mean, it's not easy, but it's relatively easy compared to getting the next 10,000 fans and the next 20,000 fans, because there is an amount of fans who desperately want the thing that you're doing, and they are easy to find at the beginning. But after a while, it becomes harder and harder and harder to find those fans. So you have to spend more to get them. You have to spend money shipping books to them and getting books printed, and then making relationships with retail stores, and then making relationships with bigger retail stores, and then going out to these little cons and going out to these bigger cons, and then traveling to bigger shows that are out of area, because you have to get people in another location. You can't just focus only on Los Angeles. You have to go regional, and then you have to go to the Midwest, and then you have to go to the East Coast. And as you gear up and get all of this stuff together, there are now expenses that are coming in constantly. Those are obligations you have to meet. My marketing company isn't going to say, you had a bad month. That's no problem. Let's just not pay me for the 20 hours of work that I did. Facebook is certainly not going to say, well, I know your ad didn't do well. Maybe we'll try again. They're going to say, yeah, we showed your ad. It didn't work. That's on you. Pay me. Printer is going to say, well, I understand you didn't sell this 100 books or 1,000 books that you ordered from me. I don't care. Pay me. The con that you didn't do very well at, you're paying months in advance. You're hoping that you can recoup that expense later, but then those con costs keep coming and they're rolling and they're rolling and they're rolling and they're rolling and they're rolling. And every time you're like, well, I don't have that many cons coming up. Boom, another con hits. And you're like, well, if I average 3 times my expense at a con, I have to do it, right? I mean, if you have to put in $300 and you get $900 back, that's a pretty good deal, right? Except that while you're waiting, you have to do the print. You have to spend your revenue to get potential future profit. These are guaranteed hard costs now for potential return later. And this is something that I talked about when I worked as a sales manager and when I consult on different companies, is you have to get them over this idea that even if you can save them 50% of what they're paying now, you still are a fixed cost for a potential return. You know, now that I'm not in sales as much as I am in entrepreneurship, I totally understand this a whole lot better. Most things you try are going to fail. Most people, even if they are good intentioned, and I do believe that most people are good intentioned, are going to fail you. And it may not be them being incompetent, and it may not be because your product isn't great. It may just be because they don't understand your market and you picked the wrong company. For instance, marketing companies. Marketing is just a guess, man. It's just a huge guess. It's like, let's throw a bunch of stuff at a wall and see which of these things is successful. And then we'll throw a bunch of stuff, keep what's successful, throw a bunch of stuff, keeps what's successful, throw a bunch of stuff and keeps what's successful. And in a few months, we'll know what's successful and we'll be able to run with that. But that's a lot of cost. I mean, you're looking at, even on a small scale, you're looking at a few $100 a month for a few months, and you might not see any return from that. On top of that, when you launch a product, even if you're launching it into a market that you know needs the product, that have told you they need a product, they don't know if you are the right person for that product. So you might have a product that is a perfect market fit and it fails, but you have to keep going because you have to expand, and it just keeps coming. The revenue comes in these little spurts, and then there's long areas of no revenue. Then these little spurts where you get a bunch of revenue, and then it goes away, and then a little spurt and a bigger spurt. And in order to get that bigger spurt in the future, i.e. growing your business, you have to take the revenue and I have to spend it on growing my audience, hoping that next year I can sell double. And then what will happen is I'll take all that revenue and I'll put it into growing an audience more and growing an audience more and growing an audience more, until eventually you hope you're satisfied with the size of your audience. But as an entrepreneur, you know you're never satisfied because that audience could go away tomorrow. So you sort of have to continue to grow your audience forever, understanding that some of that audience is going to go away. And you just hope that you continue to grow it bigger than the audience who leaves. Twitter is a great example of this. We get hundreds of people a day liking our Twitter pages and following us on Twitter. And we get a lot of people a day unfollowing us from Twitter. And we just hope that the people that leave are being replaced by better people that are more in line with our point of view. We don't know that. We don't know that today. We might know that in 6 months. We don't know that today, this minute. We don't know if any of the 86 people who signed up at Long Beach Comic Expo will buy from us. What I do know is that I spent $300 on a booth. I spent $80 on buttons. And then I spent money on all of the other things to get us to that con. If a bunch of people then get onto our mailing list and they do become customers that like us, then great. If they don't, then it's a sunk cost and it's just a failure on our part, but we still have to keep going. And I think this is where this level of depression in entrepreneurship really comes from. You have to keep going. You have no idea if what you're doing is going to be successful. You're just taking your best guess. You're taking your best guess that by signing $1,000 or $6,000 or $10,000 credit card statement, you're guessing the market right. And yes, they say, well, it should never be a guess because you're betaing and everything beforehand. And we do that, but it's still a guess because you're expecting to scale to a certain level. You're taking a small sample size and hoping to scale to a large level. And you never really know if that level is going to hit until you present it to the marketplace. And then, even then, it could be a slow burn kind of project where nothing happens at the beginning, but then it gets legs later on when more people learn about it. So even a failure may not be a failure, and even a success. You might sell 400 copies on Kickstarter of a book, and then you take it to the general population and nobody buys it. And you're like, how can this possibly be? Everyone on Kickstarter loved it. Now that I'm on Amazon and I'm going to cons, it's not getting the reaction that Kickstarter got. And the reverse might be true. Maybe nobody likes it on Kickstarter, but on a mass market scale, it does fantastic. Again, there are projections that you can put in to say, well, if X amount of people like this project, then it should do Y amount on the open market. If I grow my Twitter audience and my Instagram audience and my Facebook audience and my whole audience really, really, really big, then I should be able to sell them all of these products. Historically, this happens. And in my own business and in our own businesses, we look and say, well, when I've grown to these levels, more people have bought my project. So if I grow 10 times more, my product should grow 10 times more. But that's not always true. Maybe you have 1,000 people buying your product now, and the market is only 1,200 people. You've already found the 1,000 people, and so by trying to scale 10 times more, you're going to make no more profit, but you're always going to have that expense. And these are the things that lead to, honestly, some entrepreneurs committing suicide, basically all entrepreneurs having very poor sleep habits, because there's always a looming payment due. Always a looming payment due. And there is not always looming revenue. Sometimes you'll get a huge amount of revenue and you won't get hardly anything for 6 months. Sometimes you'll have 4 months that are terrible and 6 months that are great throughout the course of its existence. But you still have expenses, especially growing your audience. Because just because you have 70,000 fans today does not mean you will have them tomorrow. Those people can leave at any point, which means you have to continue to grow that audience above the amount of people who are leaving, which means growing your audience in perpetuity. And building your audience, you're always going to have a marketing problem. There's always going to be a payment due. And it's always going to be more than you can afford. You know why? Because if you can afford it, you want to grow past it. So if you want to do $50,000 a year and you make $20,000, you're going to spend money as if you wanted to have $50,000. And that's going to be much more than you're spending now, much more than you're taking in revenue. If you're doing $100,000, you want to do $1 million, the same exact thing. It will always be higher than the amount that you have access to at the moment. That's how it's always been. And if you're an entrepreneur, that's just what you kind of understand. Hey, I know I'm not going to have an audience at the beginning, but I need to find my audience, and I need to pay to find my audience. And then I need to pay to get products to the audience. Then I need to pay more to get into front of more people in the audience. I need to do shows, I need to do speaking engagements, I need to do all of these things. And the returns may not be there. Returns may not be there for years. And then you may surge up. You might get a New York Times bestseller. Your book may get optioned into a movie. There's a lot of maybes. There's a lot of things that may happen, but there are guaranteed expenses. And those guaranteed expenses, at least for me, are what drive me further and further and further and further into depression, even when things are going well. And things are going well. And this is not just a con high letdown. It's because every time I look at my bank statement, it goes down for a long amount of time before it goes up. Every time I look at my credit card statement, I'm like, we can't afford this credit card statement. What are we thinking? And I look at all the expenses, I'm like, 95% of these are me growing this business. They are problems of success. One of the funny things that happened recently was we ran out of copies of Gumshoes. I had to buy new copies of Gumshoes, and I looked at Karen and I was like, shit. She's like, what? She's like, I don't have any copies of this book. And she goes, isn't that a good thing? I'm like, yeah, it's a good thing, but it took us a year to sell copies of this book. I didn't want to buy more, but now that I'm doing more bookstores, I have to do more. Like, I have to buy more. And she's like, oh, poor baby, the problems of success. And I'm like, yeah, they are. Because I did not expect this $300 cost to get these books that ended up not selling at Long Beach Comic Expo, but sold very well at the bookstores. I might go to the next show and sell 10 copies of Gumshoes. You know, we went to Long Beach Comic Expo and we thought we would do double the amount of revenue that we did last year because Katrina was out and Katrina got such a huge response. And guess what? We did 2/3 of the revenue. Even though we had more books, we did 2/3 of total revenue. And that's ridiculous. All of the the numbers, everything that we said, everything that we did was that we were going to do a lot better because we had Ichabod, which still hadn't lived past its shelf life. And we also had Katrina. And Katrina had destroyed on Kickstarter, and people were loving it when we showed it in general at shows. We get to the show thinking we're going to get double the sales, and we got 66% of the sales. So that's a huge amount of revenue that I thought was going to come in this month, which didn't. But guess what did? All of the bills for that con. I don't know what I was trying to get and what the point was. I think the point was just, if you are feeling the same way, I hope this helps you. And if you're getting started on this road, I hope you know that it's probably going to come, and you're going to look at yourself when you hit a certain level of success and go, why do I feel like such crap right now? I don't know if it's going to get better. I can't tell you it's going to get better because I'm in the middle of it right now, but I can tell you that I'm in it with you. And if you're feeling that way, please reach out. Maybe by bringing all of this out into the open, we can foster some sort of decent dialogue about it. Thank you for staying to the end of this very depressing episode of The Business of Art. Let's end on an upbeat note. Do you guys like free books? Of course you like free books. And you like audio? Of course you like audio. Then head over to kickstarteruniversity.com/audible and get your free 30-day trial and your first free ebook from Audible. And make it something peppy and upbeat. A book I really like this year that I've read is Chandra Rhimes, The Year of Yes. It's much more motivating than this episode. So go and check it out. Kickstarter University/Audible. Start your free 30-day trial and rock on, guys. I'll be back. Have a great day.